Every family has its little rituals, its inside jokes. For my daughter, Lily, and me, it was the Tickle Monster. When she was 4, it was my foolproof way to pull her out of a bad mood. I put my hands into claws, my voice would drop into a silly growl, and I'd lumber towards her. "Uh-oh. I think the Tickle Monster is coming. He's gonna get you," I'd chant. She'd shriek with laughter every time and scramble away before I could grab her and cover her in raspberries. It was our thing. Her mother, Sarah, would roll her eyes from the doorway, a smile playing on her lips. "You too," she'd say. "You're ridiculous." The game faded as Lily got older, replaced by board games and movie nights. I missed it, but that's what growing up is. You leave things behind. We moved into the old Victorian on the edge of Portland, Maine in the spring. The house was a dream Sarah had nurtured for years. A fixer-upper with good bones and character. Character, it turned out, was a real estate code for drafty, creaky, and full of strange little rooms. Lily, then 7, claimed the attic bedroom. It was spacious, with a gabled window that looked out over the pine forests, and she loved the feeling of being up in the treetops. The first odd thing happened a week after we moved in. I was tucking Lily into bed. Her nightlight was on, casting a soft glow over her new space. As I leaned down to kiss her forehead, she looked up at me, her big brown eyes serious. "Daddy," she whispered, "does the Tickle Monster live here?" I chuckled, smoothing her hair. "What? No, sweetie. That was just a game. He's not real." "Oh," she said, but she didn't look convinced. She pulled the covers up to her chin. "Okay." I thought nothing of it. A new house, new sounds. It was natural for a kid to feel a little spooked. But the question came again a few nights later. And then again. "Daddy, is the Tickle Monster friendly? Daddy, does the Tickle Monster like new people?" Each time I reassured her. It was just a game. He wasn't real. But a cold little seed of unease had been planted in my gut. The way she asked wasn't playful. It was investigative. The sound started shortly after, not the normal groans of an old house. These were specific. It would happen just after we turned out the lights. From the hallway outside her room, we'd hear a soft, skittering sound, like quick, light footsteps. Then, a faint, rhythmic scratch, scratch, scratch on her door. It sounded exactly like someone gently dragging fingernails down the wood. The first time it happened, I bolted out of bed, my heart pounding, expecting to find a branch scraping against the house or a trapped animal. There was nothing. The hallway was empty and silent. Lily started having nightmares. She'd wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, unable to articulate what had terrified her so completely. "He was in the corner," she'd sob, "just standing there." Sarah suggested it was stress from the move. I wanted to believe her, but I started sleeping with my bedroom door open, listening. One night, I heard it clearly. The skittering footsteps, stopping right outside Lily's door. Then, a voice. It was low, a wet, gurgling whisper that seemed to crawl down the hallway. "I'm here." I was out of bed before I even had a thought, throwing open my door. The hallway was empty. I flung open Lily's door. She was asleep, her breathing even. There was nothing there. I was shaking. I'd heard it. It wasn't the house. It wasn't the wind. The next morning over coffee, I told Sarah everything. The questions, the scratching, the voice. Her face paled. "I've heard it too," she admitted, her voice trembling. I thought I was dreaming. We decided to set up a baby monitor in Lily's room. That night, we watched the little receiver screen from our bed, the volume turned up. For hours, there was nothing but the sound of Lily's soft breathing. Then, at 2:17 a.m., the audio on the monitor cut out. The screen didn't go to static, it just went silent. as if someone had pressed mute on the world. A moment later, a new sound filtered through. It was faint, coming from the speaker on our end. It was the sound of giggling, a child's giggle. But it was wrong. It was too low, too guttural, like it was being forced through a throat full of mud. Then, the voice, the same wet whisper from the hallway. You stopped playing, but I didn't. The audio cut back in. Lily was sitting bolt upright in her bed, staring into the darkest corner of her room. She wasn't screaming. She was perfectly silent, her eyes wide with a terror I hope to never see again on my child's face. I didn't wait. I ran to her room, flicking on the overhead light. The room was empty. I scooped her up, holding her tight. She was stiff, unresponsive, still staring at the corner. What did you see, baby? What was it? I begged. She finally looked at me, her eyes focusing slowly. The Tickle Monster, she whispered. We moved her into our room that night. We called a priest the next day. He walked through the house, sprinkled holy water, and said some prayers. He told us the house felt cold in her room, but he couldn't sense a malevolent presence. He suggested we sage the place. We did. It didn't work. The whispers started coming from other places, from the heating vents, from the space under the door when Lily was taking a bath. It was always the same phrase. I'm here. We were prisoners in our own home, living in a state of constant, sleep-deprived terror. We were planning to sell, to just cut our losses and run, but the market had dipped. We were stuck. The end came on a Tuesday. Sarah had taken Lily to the grocery store. I was alone in the house, trying to fix a leaky faucet in the kitchen. The house was silent. Too silent. From the floor above me, in Lily's abandoned room, I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. It was the sound of my own voice. It was my Tickle Monster voice, the exact silly, growly tone I'd used when she was 4. Uh-oh. I think the Tickle Monster is coming, it growled from upstairs. He's gonna get you. A wave of nausea and pure undiluted rage washed over me. This thing wasn't just scaring my daughter. It was mocking me. It was using our love, our joy, against us. I don't know what came over me. I snatched a heavy wrench from the toolbox and took the stairs 2 at a time. I threw open the door to Lily's room. The room was empty. The air was frigid. On her bed, sitting neatly on the pillow, was her favorite stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hoppington. We'd turned the whole house upside down looking for it weeks ago. I walked slowly into the room, my heart hammering. I picked up the rabbit. It was ice cold. And then, from directly behind me, right in my ear, I heard it. The voice dropped its imitation. It was now its own true horrific self, a dry, rasping, ancient sound that smelled of dust and forgotten places. Daddy's home, it hissed. I spun around, swinging the wrench wildly at the empty air. I screamed at the top of my lungs, a raw primal sound of defiance and terror. Get out! She is mine! Get out! I don't remember much after that. I destroyed the room. I tore down the curtains, kicked over the dollhouse, screamed until my voice was gone. I was a madman, purging the space with pure, violent fury. Sarah found me like that, curled on the floor of the destroyed room, sobbing, the cold stuffed rabbit still clutched in my hand. We moved out that afternoon. We stayed in a hotel, then rented a sterile, modern apartment downtown. We lost everything on the house. We didn't care. Lily never mentioned the Tickle Monster again. The nightmares stopped. The light returned to her eyes. We never told her what happened. We never explained why we left her beloved attic room behind. Some things you don't need to pass on to your children. But sometimes, late at night, if the apartment is very quiet, I'll hear the central air kick on. And in the second before the fan whirs to life, I'll hear a faint, almost imperceptible whisper in the ducts. I'm here. And I know. We didn't leave it behind in that house. We invited it into our lives. We gave it a name. And games, once started, are so very hard to stop. Family traditions are so precious, aren't they? But have you ever had a game or a joke that started to feel different? As if something else was listening and decided to join in. Share your experiences in the comments. Let's be careful what we invite into our homes.